Charles State University in Australia. Currently I'm researching whether we can develop indicators of positive emotional state in thoroughbred racehorses. It's part of an international project that's funded by the Hong Kong Jockey Club and involves people from the UK, New Zealand and Australia. In the thoroughbred racing industry, we are hoping to develop, not just us but other researchers, what is a good life for horses, because the kind of lives thoroughbreds live while they're in training, in preparation and training, is very different to the way they would live in the wild.
Okay.
And we know what horses like to do and their preferences in wild situations, which they often can't do in the racing in a racing context. So we know we can do things to make things better for them, like more forage, more turnout, but we don't yet know that gives them a good life. I think they're going to be the same irrespective of what we use our horses for, whether they are race horses or show jumpers or riding school horses like we saw today. It's if we're wanting to think about what is best for horses, what gives them a good life, a good place to start is what I talked about in my talk yesterday, which is equine telos, or which is this understanding of what is the horsiness of a horse, what through their genetics, their ethology, their behaviour, their evolutionary history, their past experience, what are the things that matter to horses, and what it is to be a horse is then what matters. So we know horses need friendship, they need forage, they need freedom, they need the ability to make choices in their own lives. And as I mentioned in my previous answer, many of the things we do with horses prevent them from doing that. So a good place to start about how we can address some of those welfare issues that arise when we prevent them from doing that is how in our modern management systems can we give horses those things. And then a secondary question to ask, which is more an ethical question, is if we can't give horses the things they really need, like friends, forage, freedom, choice, freedom from injury, freedom from pain and fear. If even with our best efforts we can't give them those things, maybe we should rethink whether we do some of those things with horses, because we can only make it better, we can't necessarily make it good. And if we can't make it good, then that's an ethical question about whether we should continue doing those things with horses. Well, what we're lucky with our society, the International Society for Equitation Science. We now have a very active social media presence, so we can communicate general ideas. But I think the way we get these ideas across is through interpersonal relationships with the people that care for the horses. I've worked in the livestock welfare, in agriculture, and I've taught livestock production to students. And I did that because I knew the best way to make things better for animals in agriculture was to teach the people who care for those animals. And the way you do that is not by saying you're a bad person because you do this thing. It's about working with them to help them to see the animal in a different way, in a science-based way, to see those indicators of pain and fear and so forth, but also where the animal appears to be enjoying its life, and then teach them and motivate and work with them to motivate them to want to increase the amount of time the animal has a good experience. So I think we need to use every means at our disposal, but I think its interpersonal relationships can be very strong in motivating people to try to change. I think there are many challenges for equine welfare in relation to public perception. We talk a lot about the social licence. I think the social licence to operate is a good framework, but I don't think it's going to solve all the problems. And I think equestrian industries will still continue, even if there's strong public pressure for them to stop, because there are economic and political factors involved. So I think the big challenge. The challenge is we do need more information because people want to know the evidence. But I think the challenge is for us as a science community is learning how to navigate these political, social, economic forces in order to get our message across to people who will change their behaviour.